always astounds me in what a colossal epic and what a colossal mess it is, both at the same time. First, let's look at the good stuff. The artwork, for example, is a very different take for Disney. The backgrounds never look three-dimensional, but they're not supposed to. It's supposed to be very much like tapestry work, or like paintings you'd see in a medieval castle. It was a very different approach, and it looks very nice, though I guess at times it can be a little distracting for some viewers. I personally don't mind, though. Let's also look at the side characters. The fairies are great. They have to hide the Princess Aurora for 16 years to keep her away from the evil of Maleficent, who again is friggin' great. I mean, one of the best villains. Top 3 easily. It's a villain that's evolved almost entirely from the voice acting and the animation. Because to be fair, her motivation's not very strong. She gets snubbed at a party, that's it. But the extremes she'll go to get revenge, now that's friggin' awesome.
Before the sun sets on her 16th birthday, she shall prick her finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and die.
She's classy, she's despicable, she's quiet, she's loud, she's subtle, she's over the top. She's everything you want in a villain. She can wave her hand to make something move, or she can turn into a fire-breathing dragon. Friggin' awesome. The music is also fantastic, taken from one of the best-known ballets under the same name. It leads to some memorable songs as well as some great climax music. In fact, the climax itself is one of Disney's best. The energy, the animation, everything that goes into it is just fiery blaze. It's always the best part of the movie every time I watch it. Now let's get to the stuff that doesn't work, like the main characters. Good God, are they boring. When I think of the stereotypical boring princess, this is who I think of. She does nothing, she has little to no character, she just sort of sings and looks pretty. I don't even think she's that pretty. But how about the prince? He's the dashing hero in the end. Surely he must be interesting, right? Actually, he's even more boring. Do you realize that the last line he says in this movie is "Goodbye, father," and that's about halfway through? After that, he doesn't get a line. He just runs around swinging his sword. That's it. At least she has an excuse. She's put to sleep for the second half. Him? God, couldn't we get a grunt or an oof or something? There's also a lot of filler in this movie, and maybe that's one of the reasons why the main characters are so bland. I think this movie really liked its side characters much more. Most of the time is spent with the fairies, the villains, the 2 kings. That really doesn't lead to anything. So really, it's a very unbalanced film. But again, I guess like most Disney films, the stuff that works well works really, really well. The villain is great, the fairies are great, the animation is great. That ending fight scene is just friggin' fantastic. So it's kind of hard to judge this movie, seeing how not only does it have some good things, but it has some of the best of any of the Disney films. But it goes beyond just typical visuals, it actually does have some very good characters, even if they are the side characters. For that, I think it holds up for several viewings. I did see this film quite a few times growing up, and I did like it every time. There's just several scenes I liked a lot more than others. But they are good scenes and they are good characters. So from a storytelling point of view, the film probably doesn't work, but just from a selfish point of view, in terms of seeing something that you've never seen before or something that's done really, really well, there's a lot of things to enjoy. Even if it turns out on the whole you don't like the film, I still think it's worth looking at. The stuff that's impressive is still really impressive. I know I'm not done watching it, and I'm sure 1 or 2 more views are not far in my future. Well, I hope you like Dalmatians, or you're really not gonna like this movie. Well, okay, I shouldn't be that mean to it, but let's just be honest. It's a bunch of Dalmatians. They walk around, they look cute, they talk, they bark, they, I don't know, just do cutesy stuff. If you like that, you're gonna love this film. If not, it's a bit of a bore. I guess there are a few things that stand out about it, like the villain Cruella de Vil, which, ever since the live-action version, has become one of the most infamous villains of all time. And she is a lot of fun, it's just a great design. Sort of this weak, fragile woman under this gigantic, hairy, monstrous fur coat. She's both glamorous and hideous at the same time, and actually is a pretty cool design. And the character's a lot of fun too, constantly screaming, constantly yelling, but always trying to look fabulous while doing it. Her motivation is to get as many Dalmatian puppies as she can to make a bajillion fur coats. And once 15 puppies of our main characters get abducted, which somehow makes the front pages for some reason. The search is on to go and find them. The rest of the characters are not bad, they're just kind of phoned in. The husband and wife are a typical nice husband and wife. The side characters are typical sort of dopey side characters. I think the only one I ever really got into was the cat, because there was just this feeling he would never give up. I mean, yeah, he's constantly screaming, he's constantly running, but he's always sticking with the puppies. Look at that, they're about to bash their brains out, he's still there trying to protect them. That's awesome, go kitty. I guess part of the joke of the movie is how seriously they're treating the dogs. Like, how the husband is just as paranoid about the birth of the puppies as, well, the dog is. Or how when the puppies are kidnapped, the maid goes out screaming into the streets and, like I said, it makes front page papers. I don't know, for me, I never found it that funny, so I guess it never got many laughs. I guess the climax is kind of fun. It is rare that you see a car chase in a Disney film, especially with Cruella behind the wheel. And I do enjoy how the car continues to get stripped down and almost starts to turn into just as big a monster as she is. But aside from that, I don't think it has the charm as something like Lady and the Tramp had, or even the animation for it. Although I guess it was sort of groundbreaking in that they were testing rotoscope and copying and so forth and how many puppies they could show. But I don't know if that makes it one of the better Disney films. If you're a dog fan or a Dalmatian fan, you'll probably like it fine, but if not, it's not horrible, it's just not that engaging. Take it for what it's worth, not one of my personal faves. The Sword in the Stone. This is one of those movies I both really love and really hate at the same time. Well, maybe hate's too strong a word, but there's definitely an annoyance to it. Okay, let's talk about the good stuff. These are very memorable characters. Arthur is a naive, innocent boy, and Merlin is sort of this weird, eccentric wizard who's trying to teach him knowledge and wisdom. It's sort of nice having a film about Arthur that doesn't dive right into the sword battles and such, but instead into the philosophies of, well, being a good king. I like how we dive into the education, I like how we dive into him learning everything. But I guess here's my problem with it. That's exactly what it is. It's education and learning things. And it sort of goes at that pace. It's kind of like being in school, except you have an owl and Merlin teaching you stuff as opposed to your boring teachers. But with that said, that is kind of cool. But is that really what kids want to see when they go to watch a Disney film? For me as a kid, I did find myself watching it a lot. Maybe because there was such a laid-back tone to it. I mean, yeah, Arthur becomes a bird, he becomes a fish, he becomes a squirrel, and that's always great for kids. But nothing truly exciting happens until the last third, when we get our villain, Mad Madam Mim. And even then, she's more of a side character than the main villain, though she is a lot of fun. And that wizard's duel, that whole scene was awesome. I used to watch that over and over when I was younger. It's creative, and it's just got some great slapstick.
What's going on here? You big blimp!
When I got older and I saw that the film was in the video store, I said, you know what, I do remember that movie leaving a big impact on me. Maybe I should watch it again. But when I saw it again, I actually found it a little more boring than I remember. The animation's not really spectacular, and neither's really the backgrounds. And I found I wasn't really learning that much. It's got its good scenes, but I don't know if it really gels as well as it wants it to. I think I admire more what it was trying to do than the final product. But with that said, I do like the relationship between Arthur and Merlin, and the side characters are a lot of fun too. Though, has anyone else noticed that the boy clearly went through puberty when he was doing this voice?
But I've got to get back to the castle. They'll want me in the kitchen.
He was a monster. The biggest fish I ever saw.
There's literally a scene where they play 2 clips of his voice back to back, and they don't gel up. Listen.
Oh, Sir Actor. Whoa, what? Whoa!
It sounds like 2 different kids. But oh well. The film is a bit of a mixed bag, but I am glad I saw it when I was younger. And I guess I'm glad I saw it when I was older too. There's a lot of creativity, and like I said, I think it was kind of neat that they took this very laid-back tone. But sometimes I think it works to its disadvantage. I do like it, but I think a lot of that is more because of the nostalgia and the idea of it. It's hard to say whether or not the whole thing is worth recommending, but I will say if you do go see it, you'll definitely get 1 or 2 really creative and enjoyable moments. Minimum.
Ora lievito un cucno. Un cucno? Un cucchiaino.